do anything without AI. We should be scared. We should.
Ooh, we are gonna take a breather, y'all. We just gonna let that process. Joe, you got that? We're gonna let that process for a second. We're gonna take a quick break and we'll be right back because I gotta think about that. Woo! It's a good show right here. But I'm biased. If you are just tuning in, you are watching Fly Nubian Money, where we help you master your mindset and maximize your money. My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood, and I'm the proud producer of this show because it is lit. If you want to receive notifications for when we go live Monday through Friday, 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948. That's Queens to 87948. That's QUEENS to 87948. Also, if you want to grow your money and not blow your money, all you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. There's all kinds of resources, there's courses, there's free giveaways. There's just no reason to be broke in 2025. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoney.com. Obviously, you don't want to be entertained here. You want to know enough to grow. Wait, I need to put that on a shirt. You gotta know to grow. Gotta know to grow. So know and grow with flynubianmoney.com. All right, y'all. All right, no Malenga is sitting now. Amen. Um, so we've had some time to kind of process what that means. So I just want to get your reactions to the videos. I'll start with you, Joe.
So it's not a coincidence. It's a consequence to underfunded school systems, generational trauma, system neglect, all the things, right? And this doesn't surprise me. I've said many times on this show that we do not have enough talented people in education. One, because it doesn't pay enough, and two, because it doesn't pay enough. Right? That's not where our talent is going. My aunt, I told you, my aunt who is in her 80s, told me that when she grew up in St. Louis, her school was all the teachers were Black professionals because they couldn't get jobs in the education that they were trained to do. These were doctors, lawyers, really talented people that she grew up educating her. We don't have that anymore. You literally don't even have to have a teaching certificate at this point in order to be a teacher in a lot of different states because there's such a shortage. So basically what I'm saying is they're letting anybody do it. So if you're letting anybody do it, you're going to take your paycheck and do what's most convenient for you. And when it comes to educating these children, and then we don't have talented principals. We don't have talented superintendents. We don't have them. So, and then what are we doing? We also with a generation that just has developed learned helplessness. They're helpless. I mean, it's just what it is, right? In a lot of different ways. I mean, they can help themselves do what they want to do, but when we're talking about all these things that they're being asked to do, that honestly, truly aren't even relevant to their lives, are never probably going to be relevant to their lives, we have to switch it up. And that's why I'm with Nomalinga. Like, I homeschool my son, and that is what it is. We cannot trust this school system to do anything but watch our kids for 8 hours.
Mm, mm. Vanessa, what do you say? I mean, there was a part in there where she was saying something about, the students would come up to her desk and be asking them to walk her to walk them through every piece of the assignment. Is that not her job? Is that, or is she, help me understand. What was your perspective on that?
I mean, I didn't. I wish that she would have clarified the grade level, but I mean, I'm assuming my daughter's in first grade and my daughter can write 5 sentences. So that just tells you. I mean, I can't imagine, right? Third, fourth, fifth grade, you should be able to write 5 sentences. But I think it's just a failure on the family's fault. Honestly, I think that if you get to any level where your child cannot write 5 sentences a week, and they've been passed along, it's a severe issue, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we can blame the school system, the teachers, but I mean, they're already living their lives and they have their income, they have their careers and all that. Like, we have to be responsible for our own children. Someone just posted in there and said, if your child cannot read, it is your fault. And I absolutely unequivocally agree with that. Because at the end of the day, when we have children, it's our responsibility. Now, I understand you have some, foster care children or some, rules to acceptance, but those should be the focus on where teachers need to be going one by one with that student, right? The people who don't have parents, or maybe dealing with like some other type of issues, which most schools will develop like an IEP plan for those type of students, right, that are dealing with like behavioral issues, or maybe they don't have a family foundation. But I think No Malanga said this too, that kids basically mimic what they see. So if you're always on your phone, or if you're not paying attention to your kid, then that's just kind of what they're going to mimic. You literally have to make it a priority. If you want your child to do something, you have to mirror it. They have to see it. That's just the bottom line. So I think that, we're running into an era where you're gonna, I don't know if it's necessarily like all doom and gloom, but what I believe is that you're going to see this gap of widening of people who can do stuff, maybe people like our children who we put the work in, time in, homeschool. They're going to be extremely, extremely talented in a pool of untalented, lazy people. So you're going to see, I think, the wealth gap expand exponentially. And I think for our Black community, we just got to get on board with like, you know, and I don't want, because my sometimes when I listen to stats, my world isn't that, because everybody around me, I feel like, is very in tune with their children. I mean, like you said, Lauren was reading. Lauren was sitting on my couch at like 4 or 5 years old, guys, and I was on Netflix, looking past some adult, not adult stuff, but like some action rated R. And she was like, "What's," and read the title. I was like, "Oh my God!" I had to turn it to the kid. I'm like, "Who told you how to read? Why are you reading at 4? Why?" You know? And I realized, like, dang, I gotta I gotta watch what I'm scrolling through, 'cause she's reading these titles. So I think it's I think it's just sometimes the people around me are very involved with their children, and maybe it's just that birds of a feather. I flock with the same type of birds. But I think that, we just have to be responsible for our children. We can't keep blaming a system. Like, it's not the system's fault all the time. It's like, you had this kid, right? Your kid
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
read in fourth, fifth grade. That's your problem. That's your laziness as a parent. It has nothing to do with the school and the teacher.
yeah. Um, No, Malinga, what do you say about that? I mean, because I agree with that. Obviously, I'm a hands-on mother. I am very involved in my daughter's life. But for the parents that do have to work and that kind of have to rely, when I was younger, I was in programs where the teachers cared, and so it's a little bit of like what Joe was saying. I was in different programs. I had teachers that were like on my tail about all of the things. It felt very much more like a community, and that you had aunties. Whenever we go take Lauren to school, we're always looking for the auntie in the room that can just put their hand on Lauren in every environment that we take her to. So are they failing us, or is it like, do we just lack community now? Like, what is the issue?
I also was curious to know what grade level she was talking about.
Mhm.
And it didn't sound like it was first or second grade. It sounded like it was
No.
further along, which is why she was surprised. I just saw a comment kind of pass through that said, parents also, or some parents also can't read and can't write. And that is actually true.
Yeah.
Maybe about over 10 years ago, I had like about two or three blogs. And I remember sometimes we would get people to write, and I would edit, and it would just be impossible to put it out because I just didn't understand what was happening. And I've also taught at the college level, and unfortunately, you actually do get people who get all the way. One of the colleges I taught at was a community college, so they can get into the first year of college and not really be able to read and write. So it does happen. So if we're trying to identify one of the major problems, aside from, I wouldn't necessarily say assigning blame, but assigning responsibility to the family and the community of that child. If I was to look at another core issue, it would be this idea of everybody moves on to the next level, regardless. Like there's certainly no standard then. If you just finished the school year, then you're on to the next year and on to the next year, which means there's just no standard for moving on. And that also is part of that whole culture of that I've never believed in of, everybody gets a trophy, everybody won. And that's simply not true. There has to be some level of assessment, and then there has to be some standard for how well you have to do before you move on to the next level. Even in college, you can't take certain courses without taking the prerequisite, because then at that level, you won't be able to function in that classroom or in that course because you won't have the fundamental base level knowledge that you need to function. And that's what's happening. People are now reaching adult life without having the very basic fundamentals. So there is an issue with I think it's more the public school system. There is an issue with the public school system where they're just passing children from grade to grade. And again, sometimes it's just that thing of, I don't want to hurt their feelings by telling them that everybody's moving on to the second grade and they have to stay in the first, or whatever it is. But the fourth grade is actually very, very important. That's the point where a child should absolutely not move on. If you can't get past fourth grade, which is where you should have all your fundamentals, where you're reading and you're writing, you're doing basic arithmetic, and you should be able to reason, logic, and critical thinking. If at about 9, 10 years old, you haven't reached that level, you need to stay right there until you get it, as many times as it takes, because that's what it takes. Otherwise, you're going to end up at another level struggling, and unfortunately, you're not going to do very well, whether it's school or in life.
Okay, that completely makes sense to me. I want to add
Just
the
one more
factor of
point, sorry,
COVID.
one more
Well,
point,
wait a
sorry.
minute, wait, no, I want to hit you after this break because I got to take a break.
Okay.
But I want us to process that, and then also when we come back, I want to talk about COVID's involvement and maybe what's happening with right now. So let's take a break, take a deep breath, and we'll be right back. I know you're busy, you got things to do, and you can't take us on the go with you every single day. Good news for you, we are now on Spotify. So if you can't watch us, now you can listen to us on Spotify. Search Fly Nubian Money and all the episodes shall appear. All you have to do is like, subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, leave some comments, tell people how you love us so that when other people come along and are looking for a great show to watch, they can find Fly Nubian Money too. One last thing, and just in case you've been sitting under a rock, Fly Nubian Money now has an investment club. We are the Fly Nubian Money Club. It's easy. All you have to do is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com, and I am committed to bringing in top experts from all industries to help you level up. They're teaching us the skills that we need to compete in this market. We often say that nobody is coming to save us, not the government, but guess what? We're coming to save us. I'm coming to save you with the Fly Nubian Money Club. So listen, all you have to do again is go to flynubianmoneyclub.com. We have a 30-day free trial set up just for you, just for those people that are struggling. Even if you ain't struggling, you ain't got to struggle. I'm coming. Okay, let me stop playing. I'll see you soon. I'm coming for you, y'all. I'm coming for you. All right. Nolinga, I want to come right back to you. I know you had another thing to add, so I didn't want to cut you off. What were you going to say?
It's okay. The last thing that I wanted to say is I'm not ready to entirely blame parents, and say that, okay, so they have the responsibility, but I'm not ready to completely blame them. I don't know if that makes sense. Like if you're going to say a parent is lazy, there are parents who genuinely want their children to do well, but if you are a parent who can't yourself read and write, how exactly do you support and encourage a child to do something that you can't do? There are people who have very chaotic home lives. They're barely making it. They're struggling. There's abuse, whether it's the mother and father, whatever it is, just very, they're barely making it. And one of the things that I don't know about most schools, but one of the things that I've always said as an educator is sometimes when a child is not doing well, as an educator, you have to check, did they eat that morning? Did they sleep a good 8, 10? They need 10, 12 hours when they're young. Just those basic things sometimes. are not there. And then to say some children, there's people my age, I'm in my 40s, who say, well, I was like, what would they call latchkey kids? They came home to nobody and spent the whole day with nobody because mom and dad or just mom were at work. So it's easy to say some of these things that I personally have said that is the responsibility of the parent. But what if that parent is trying to work 2 jobs just to stay above the ground and so forth? So it then extends to community in the sense that you should have aunts, uncles, neighbors, um, grandma, grandpa, and so forth. And even siblings. You'd be amazed at what siblings can do, where you allow an older sibling to be with a younger sibling and so forth. It should just expand a little bit. The responsibility should expand a little bit in order for everybody to be successful. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Those
Those are some great thoughts. You said a lot of things. Vanessa, you want to add to that? I saw you
I do.
fidgeting.
I think that too. I think to add to that, I think it's important. I mean, I think that it's it's for sure the village and the family's responsibility, with the exception if it's like abuse or foster care. But I want to know, I think it's very interesting, right? Like, just my perspective. My mom didn't know how to do half the stuff. My mom never read a book to me, my mom or my dad, to be honest. They never read a book to me. But I'll tell you one thing I wasn't going to do. I wasn't going to go to school and act up. Because, see, that's where, if you are not able to teach your children the things that they need to know, maybe you don't have the capabilities to. One thing you can control, or early on, is the way that they view the teacher, the respect level that they have for the school system, the education system. When you go to these other countries, they're not sitting there doing the work with the kid. The kid gets all the work done at school because they have a different level of respect for what they're doing. So I feel like, with the exception of like abuse or something like that, but we're talking about, for the most part, and now no household is perfect. Like, I feel like I grew up getting yelled at, you're going to have some trauma. But I knew not to go to school and act a fool. Like, that wasn't even an option. Like, I probably wouldn't be here today. Like, it was serious. Like, you're not gonna go to school and act like you don't have no damn sense. And I feel like a lot of the kids now, a part of the detriment of them learning is because they have no respect for the system or the school, and they have parents who not only are not working with them, but who are also not engaged in like pushing the narrative of like, we don't play around in school. This is not a joke. We don't play around. I will come snatch you up. I will come sit, like, we don't have that. So you have parents who are getting mad at the teacher, taking the student side, and where the teacher feels like they're scared to say something. So even if you can't necessarily do the things to homeschool your child, and as a supplement to public education, what you can do is instill some discipline in them and some values in them, so that they can go to school and get what they need. My parents never did a day of homework with me in my life, never read a book, and it's because they were working. They were parents who were working, who were trying to make ends meet. I didn't grow up with a ton of money. My mom was young when she had me, just trying to figure things out. But I knew, listen, if I want to be alive tomorrow, I'm not gonna go into school and act a fool. I'm not about to embarrass my mother or my dad. I knew those were the two. That was a hard line.
Yeah.
So I think, just for me, the respect value of what I was going to school to do was instilled. And I think we all have a responsibility as parents, at minimum, to do that. These kids don't have no respect for these teachers.
You're
It's
absolutely right.
absolutely crazy.
It's dangerous to be a teacher in this day and age. It feels like, either, especially, it just feels like a danger, right? Joe, before I go to the next video, I just want to get your perspective on that. And really, I wanted to throw COVID into this because here's the thing. I feel like COVID really changed, it changed schools. I mean, it changed students. I mean, they were forced to do this new thing, be at home, being learning virtually, and a lot of kids weren't equipped for that, and it really threw, I think, our whole system off. They were out of school, there was a lot of depression, the parents couldn't really teach the kids. It was just a lot. So do you think that that has something to do with, and just really like change the trajectory of our children's education?
not only COVID, I think that's one of many circumstances that changes the direction of everything. I mean, I don't disagree with the things that Noma and Vanessa are saying for the most part. Parents do have an accountability to make sure their children are respectful and make sure their children get the best education or understand how to read. You do have an accountability to that at the base level. However, like I've just seen too many as a therapist and as a teacher, I've just seen too many lived experiences that don't allow me to talk about it in that way. Like I mean, there's examples where the mother is doing her best to make sure her child is respectful, but she doesn't know that her daughter or her son's getting sexually molested by his uncle every weekend, so he's lashing out. So now she's looking at her like, man, she's not training this boy to come to school and do, but she's doing the best she can. And I know these are like seem like extreme special circumstances, but they're not that extreme.
It
And
happens.
they're happening all the time, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And she lost her job and she had a job. She's educated, she had a job, she lost her job. Now she's not able to get work. So her kids aren't eating every night. So her kids are angry and they're coming to school pissed off. And they don't want to talk about what's 4+4 because they're not eating. And like I said, but she's doing her best, to make them respectful, but they don't understand why they were eating last week and they're not eating this week. So it's like, and then, so my mindset on that is there are people that have been trained and educated to deal with these things and they're not doing it properly. So, and because a lot of them that are able or willing to do it properly aren't supported by a system that can consistently let them down over and over again, from the top down. So, yes, there is some accountability from the parent side, but the system, it does take accountability. You have to put some accountability in that system because it's failed our children over and over again. And we have we have to get out of this mindset. I'm not saying we don't, but we have been almost trained to be dependent upon the system, thinking that we should be able to send our kids to school and trust that they'll come back, a certain way. But yes, I do agree that we have to get out of that mindset. I do agree with Vanessa and Noma when they say that. But that's not an easy, like I can't like berate parents for not getting there or not being there right now. It takes a whole overhaul. That is systematic. It is completely systematic.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanna throw to the next video. But I hear what you're saying. That's there obviously that's happening more than more often than not. And so there's a lot of my friends. I mean, I lived without my parents. I was one of those students that, was living with my auntie or my grandmother. And so, there's a lot going on. There's always a lot going on. And I just think that's an interesting perspective. So let's hold on to that, but let's go to this next video and then we'll respond to that.
Imagine graduating high school with a 3.4 GPA, but you cannot read or write. You cannot read I am Sam, okay? You cannot even write your first name, which is a skill that's typically seen in children between the ages of 4 and 6. That's when they're able to finally achieve that goal, that milestone. But here you are at the big age of 18 and you can't even write your first name. That's exactly what happened to this boy in Tennessee. And guess what? He sued his high school. And guess what? The courts actually sided with him. So an appellate court actually sided with a Tennessee man, which in the documents is referred to as William A., who sued his former high school, graduating him without addressing his learning disability, right? And so he's seeking damages and proper education, because imagine being 18 and you cannot read or write. So according to the article, the district had given him an IEP. For those of you who don't know, that stands for Individual Education Program, right? And this is actually funded through our taxpayer dollars. This is supposed to be a program in which children who have learning disabilities, behavioral disabilities, any of those problems would receive extra one-on-one, you understand, teaching so that they could actually meet their goals, right? So it says that the district had given him an IEP saying that he had a learning disability and a language impairment, yet they never actually addressed any of it. Turns out he was dyslexic, and they never acknowledged it. In the complaint that was put in motion by his parents, it stated that the district actually failed to make progress with the student and in fact watched him as he regressed. Turns out he was using artificial intelligence to hand in all of his work, like ChatGPT.
You know what's interesting? I wonder how many students or how many students need to be diagnosed in some way. But like we've been saying, the bar is so low for teachers. Teachers are just getting paid to show up. And just being there is enough. Discovering that a child, and each individual child may learn differently or need to be spoken to, or language need to be phrased a certain way for them to learn is really, is really scary, because like like we're saying, some of it is the teacher, but some of it is the family. But not having talented teachers to identify and say this might be the issue that they're having, or maybe they need some, I don't know, like, I don't know, we were talking about the Ron Clark Academy yesterday, and like how Ron kind of like has this special program where he engages students a certain way and teaches them a certain way, and then trains teachers to also use that certain structure. So Joe, I'm gonna come back to you on this. What do you say for situations like that, where maybe our students can't read and write because they need to be, not necessarily have some type of disability or issue, they just need to be taught in a non-traditional or non-conventional way?
Same thing I've been saying. Like, we have to have talented people
Hmm.
doing these type of things. We have to. It has to be more rigorous than what it is. Some people, everybody's not trained to educate certain things. Some people are just not prepared or equipped to do it, and that is what it is. I go back to the same thing that we started off saying. The parents do have accountability to get their kids somewhere where they can be educated and trained. There are circumstances that make some of that difficult, agreed, but talented people are required to do this. When we just let anybody do it for far too long, because that's the way we've done it, and that doesn't, it's not efficient anymore. It's not sustainable anymore. This is we just can't do it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. Hey, Keith Long, that's my friend. Hey, Keith. Keith says, so the parents didn't know he couldn't read. It's that part. It's like, I
Pow
can't
pow.
be in a house with Lauren all this time and be like, girl, read this. And she'd be like, I can't read. And somebody knew.
I
And I
can't write
think
my name.
I can't write my
I
name and I
can't
can't
write.
read.
Now I'm sorry. That should you should be who young kids should
They,
be able to write their name before they go to school. At least, like, they should be able to write like a B, a S. I mean, that means that you haven't done absolutely no parenting. And I get it. I don't mean, and I
wait a
guess
minute, Vanessa. Hold that thought. We're going to go to break. And then I want you to, I know how you feel. We're going to go to break and we're going to come back and I'll let you finish your thought.
Are you a black business owner looking to expand your reach? Well, has Fly Nubian Money got good news for you? We are building a black business directory to connect you with customers who need your services. And here is the best part. It is absolutely free. Email us at info@realvirtual.net. Send us your business name. Tell us a little bit about what you do, what services you offer, your website address, and your contact information. That's it. Together, we are going to build and circulate the black dollar. Get listed today and start connecting with people who are probably already looking for you.
Okay, Vanessa.
get
I'm gonna
listed.
let you finish your thought, and I'm gonna go to some stats because I want to know. I know we've been saying what we think and in our opinion, but I want to know what the stats say. What were you gonna say?
The stats say we need to focus on our damn kids. That's what the stats. That's what they should say. I'm gonna tell you exactly what they should say if they're not saying it. Focus on your kid. Make sure your kid knows how to write their names before they go. There's no way in the world you should have a child. I don't care what your circumstances are, right? With the exception of a few rare, maybe, extreme situations where you should not know your child cannot read and write, and we're through high school. I just feel like at some point, and it may be, it may be, and I don't want to like an American thing or, whatever. I come from two different cultures. So I feel like sometimes we just make excuses. And the bottom line is if you have children, they are your responsibility. And that's just it. So you are responsible for educating them. You are responsible ultimately for making sure they read and they write. Now, understand that there are a lot of different circumstances that can happen, but at the end of the day, it is your responsibility. And I just think we all, give a lot of, this is what we're feeling, and this person was going through this. And man, if you're an adult and you have children, or you know what, maybe some folks need to start taking requirements before they have children, because what's going to happen is we're going to keep creating situations where you just have, you know, inefficient, traumatic kids who are just not exceeding or getting into trouble. And it's just this victim. I hate the victim mentality. Like I get it. We all, but at
Well,
the end
let's
of the
see what
day,
this
they're your
stat. Let's
kids.
see what the
They your
stats say. Because
kids.
you get your kids. Let's see what the stats say. All right. According to to a 2023 National Assessment of Education Progress Report, only 37% of 12th grade students performed at or above the proficient level in reading, revealing a concerning trend in literacy skill across the U.S. A 2022 study by the Literacy Project Foundation found that approximately 30 million adults in the US are functionally illiterate, meaning they can't read above a basic level, which greatly hinders their ability to succeed in the workforce. There are 30 million adults. I want to know if that's one in every how many, what does that look like? So look to your left, look to your right. That means that most likely those people can't read. Let's go to the next stat. The U.S. Department of Education reported that adults with low literacy skills are twice as likely to be unemployed, and those who are employed earn, or on average, 20% less than their literate counterparts. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, Black students are more likely to attend schools with fewer resources and lower literacy rates, further contributing to the educational gap. I promise I can read y'all. A 2022 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that 70% of high school students or seniors were unprepared for college level reading and writing, with Black and Hispanic students showing the most significant gap in literacy and academic performance. You said something earlier, Vanessa. It's like birds of a feather. If you go to certain places and you're exposed to certain experiences, especially when it comes to, you know, having an education, it pushes you to want to be better. Like if you're in an environment around smart people, you want to be better. I remember in high school I was not great because I'm an artist, right? I've been an artist and a creative all my life, so math didn't come as quick to me. So I had to do, but everybody around me was thriving in math, so what did I do? I went to summer school for math. I like it, just made me want to be a better student. I joined a math team, y'all. Like that's how dedicated I was in there. Like, I don't know what y'all talking about, but if I'm here, it's gonna rub off on me, is what I was thinking. Just being here in this environment is gonna make me better. So do our students have that? It feels like with social media being a factor, some of our students, I won't say all, but some of our students just kind of like don't have that type of grit, don't have that type of nobody told me to join the math team. I was like, how am I going to get it? Like, I got to pass basic standards soon. Like, you know, so what does that say? Like, how can our students get this if they're not really being pushed in that way? Joe, what do you say? No, Malanga, what do you say? No, Joe, what do you say?
No, I gotta sit on that one for a second.
You gotta sit on that one. Okay, Noma, what do you say? Like, if it's not the culture right now, if the culture is to just be basic and unachieving, underachieving, like, how do you break out of that if it's not around you?
Well, being Black, especially Black in America, you don't have the privilege of being basic. It was always drummed into us that when you're Black, I would say this though, I've always hated that pressure, and I don't think it should be put on children. However, I will say as a parent, you should know that you can't just be basic, you can't just float along, and you have to do your absolute best, go above and beyond just to meet the standard. Um, uh, Going back to the child who ended up 18 years old without being able to read or whatever. If a child has an IEP, it's up to also the parent to advocate for that child that that plan has to be followed or that program has to be followed, and have to check up and make sure. It's actually illegal to not honor that plan if the child is in a public school system. But I just can't imagine how the parent wasn't aware. So, we can talk until we're blue in the face, but we're never going to avoid the fact that as a parent, it's your primary responsibility to make sure that you prepare your child for adulthood,
Yeah.
to function in adulthood. Even if you are inadequate or whatever, just do your damn best. And if we're being honest, most parents are not doing their best. I don't know what they're doing, but they're not doing their best. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, you mentioned COVID earlier. That's how I knew a lot of parents are not doing the best. You should have been on social media during that time. They were mad that they had to be home with their kids. A lot of people can't even stand their kids. They put them in school to have somewhere to put them so that they can get away from them. A lot of women go to work. And when you tell them, well, would you consider being a stay-at-home mom or work-at-home wife, whatever it is, they're like, no, I can't be with these children all day. They cannot stand their own children, and then they're sending them to other people to stand them all day. So, like I said, we can talk and talk and talk, but if you're a parent and you're not willing to parent, you're not willing to take responsibility, even if you have your own setbacks and what have you, you're not willing to do your absolute best. That's where one of our problems is. And I'll go back to also saying, of course, there's something wrong in the school system if we're passing failure on and then failure on and failure on until a person has failed at 18 years old. But we'll never be able to escape the fact that we're accountable. Us mothers, us fathers, we're accountable. There's just no way around it.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit this last video. I'm gonna let Joe, I'm gonna let you think about it. Maybe we incorporate it into our final thoughts. But let's hit this last video and it'll be the cherry on top. Let's do it.
Okay, let's talk about it real quick. Let's make it make sense. I know all last week, all over social media, you saw nothing but teachers talking about how elementary and middle school kids are reading 4 years below grade level. Well, as a high school teacher, I'm here to inform you that high school kids are doing way worse. They are reading 6 years below grade level. The only difference is a whole heap of these kids are going to graduate at the end of this school year. And we are expecting them to go to college and obtain jobs when they can not even comprehend basic skills, which is why we probably see a problem with employers finding employees. There are literally high school kids reading on a 3rd grade reading level, and still states are expecting teachers to prepare kids and have them pass state tests are on or above grade level. See, the issue is schools have dumbed it down for kids. They have made it so easy that kids believe that their only job is to show up and behave. And that should be enough to get a passing grade and to go on to the next grade level. We have a real issue here. And please do not talk to me about graduation rates, because Bugs Bunny could graduate in this era. Make it make sense.
You know, you know what's interesting, y'all? It's like, and that's kind of my fear with AI, because I feel like the kids can hide behind AI and be passed along. I mean, you can't, I mean, until you have to actually test, then that's when the true colors will come out. But otherwise, you can kind of get through using AI tools and all of that. It doesn't force you to think. It doesn't force you, you know, for us using it as people that have gone through the educational system and been successful, right? We see it as a real tool, and we can use it. Sometimes I'm always like, I want to think first. Let me think first, and then put my thoughts into ChatGPT, and it tell me what you know right what it thinks from my thoughts. But people aren't doing that. They're just saying like, write it for me. So that is my concern. According to her, you know, the kids, I mean, everybody is behind, right? 30 30 million people are 30 million adults are illiterate, right? So I'm just considering all of those things. If the parents are illiterate and the students are illiterate, like what does that really mean for us, for our future? Right? What does that mean? What how you know, in China, they're introducing their children to AI as like learning AI at 6 years old, right? 6 years old, but like not as a way to pass along, but learning, actually learning, and as a way to like take over, right? And education is just pushed in a way that's like, y'all not about to watch the internet. Y'all not, TikTok is banned. Y'all gonna get into these books. So I wonder how we'll be able to compete in 20 years. I mean, tell me what you all think about this. Let's work this into our final thoughts. Help me understand. Give me some hope about the future. Like what can we suggest, you know, to people that may be watching that are thinking like, what does this look like 20 years from now? And how do we catch up? Can we catch up? What can we do? I'll start with you, No Malinga. What can we do? Sis, what does this mean? Help me understand.
Okay, so since we're at like third grade, fourth grade, which is where children seem to be getting stuck, you can go back to the basic fundamentals. I remember when our oldest two were young and we were homeschooling them, every week, at least one day of the week, we either go to the bookstore or to the library. So they had a requirement to read at least one book every week. You don't have to have the money to go to the bookstore. You can just go to the local library. Again, it's about your family culture. It's not about, sometimes it isn't always about a lack of resources. It's about your dedication and your commitment to getting your children where they need to be. So like I said, reading has to be a requirement. And then really you can use things like AI or technology. I remember we used to have these little quizzes that I can't remember what the program was. They would watch stuff on the computer and would show them some math, and then it would give them a test. And if they didn't get, I think above 7 out of 10, they'd have to repeat and rewatch that content. And then once they got at least 7 out of 10, they could move to the next thing. And that was without my intervention. This is when our children were homeschooling. So there are tools and resources that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg and don't require you as a parent to know everything, but you just have to have that commitment and that dedication. And I will keep saying it over and over and over again. Fourth grade is so, so critical. Once you get past fourth grade, you should be able to do the basics. And if you can't, you need to stay there. And if the school system that your child is in is passing them along, you as a parent need to stay at that fourth grade level until your child has gone past that. Again, it's just the basics. It's reading, it's writing, and it's arithmetic. Everything that you do after that is based on those three fundamentals. And as I said, I always added the fourth R, which is reasoning. If you go on Facebook and you watch some of the comments, you can see that some people don't have basic logic and critical thinking skills. So that's something that you have to instill from a very young age. So just those four things, that's it. If you're a parent and you're really concerned, like, what can I do? How can I escape this prison, a preschool to prison pipeline? How can I escape this horrible school system? Just those four things will get you far. I'm sorry, this is our last, our closing comments. My name is Noma Langa. I'm available on Facebook as Noma Langa. I'm Sally Moses. I do have my own YouTube channel under the same name, and I'm also on Instagram as Noma Moses.
You got pass for our girls? Send some
Oh, okay.
passes to
Sorry.
Tia. I want
Actually,
people to
yeah, we
send
actually
passes
do
to
have a campaign this week. Thank you for bringing that up, Tia. We
saw
do have a
it.
campaign this week. This weekend, we're visiting one of the girls' shelters. It's actually founded by an organization called WAR, W-A-R, Women Against Rape. So most of the girls that are in the shelter have been affected by that. So we have about, I think, maybe 10 girls in there. We're collecting obviously sanitary pads, we're taking donations, and because it's winter in Botswana, we're also trying to get them warm pajamas, coats, tracksuits, whatever you can name. So our donations would really go a long way. And if you'd like to donate, it's at padsforourgirls.com. And the smallest amount counts, and it goes a long way.
Amazing. All right, Joe, what do you say, sir?
You know, every parent isn't doing their best. We can agree on that. Every parent does have accountability to their child. We can agree on that. But the ones that don't, are that are not doing their best, and the ones that are not taking accountability, then what? Like, what do we? Is that where we stop with their kids and just? So there is a there's a truth to be held there, and some honesty, and there's some plenty of judgment to go around. But I mean, some of these same parents were failed by the same system that is failing their children now, and I cannot ignore that. So we can hold families accountable, and we can, but while still like paying attention to this the fact that the system is failing them, and that's not a mentality. I don't think we can label that a victim mentality. I think it's just a reality in part, and we have to accept that that is a reality, and still hold people accountable. Like, two things can be true in that. And in our communities, we know we continue to heal, and we got a lot to work to do to heal, and that we what we must do. So we can read to our children, we can show up for school events, we can mentor, we just be present. And for the struggling parents, we can be present for them too. And those small acts of care, that's the mentality shift that we got to have as a community, because some of our parents are failing their kids, but we can't just ignore their kids, because it's their responsibility to take care of their kids. We just can't ignore them. We have to get back in there and do what we can for the long-term vision of our community, so we can grow stronger. I mean, we all have a sense of accountability to our community, not just beyond our own children, whether some people accept that or not. But if we're going to get to a better space, or complain about it, we better show up. We better show up. It's a collective. So that's all I'm saying. Our kids are watching, and I'm going to do my part. I'm not going to judge anybody for not showing up to do their part, but I'm going to do my part. If you're not holding up your end of the bargain as a parent, and if I have any say in it, I'm going to step in and do what I can. And that's just what it is. And I'm still going to hold you accountable to show up and do what the hell you're supposed to do for your own child. You're supposed to be present for your child 100%. And I'm going to tell you that, but I'm still going to help your child. And you can find me at realuconsulting.com. All the links to my socials is on there. We doing, Vulnerability is the New Sexy on Tuesday nights. Please go and subscribe, you know what I mean? Show up and expand that conversation in any way that you can. I love input from all different directions. And that's all I got for today.
Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Great. Vanessa.
I'm
what do you have
just
to
gonna
say?
wrap it up to say, listen, y'all, get y'all damn kids. Get y'all damn kids together, because it is literally when you are allowing your children to not read, to not write, to not compete in this global economy, you are literally failing them. You are literally putting them in poverty. You are literally destroying their lives. Like, if there is one way that you want to destroy your kids' life, it's by not investing and make sure that they have the basic skills necessary to compete as an adult in this world. There are so many free resources if you have younger children. download Khan Academy. A lot of these schools have like a Zern for like math, that's Zearn. They already have subscriptions. My daughter is doing some of the programs that her school already subscribes to for free. So there's no reason why your child should be sitting up on social media or YouTube. These kids got iPads, they got phones. Take them iPads and phones, limit the time, or at least put restriction on it so that the only thing that they can do is the apps. If you're not going to sit down and read with them, if you don't have the time to read with them, get some of these educational apps and say, if you want to be on your iPad, if you want to be on your phone, you got to do these apps. And there are tons of free apps. We're talking about AI. Go on AI, ChatGPT, Google free educational apps for kids this age, and they will all pop up. Take a quick, brief look at them and download them. We have so much information that we can no longer blame other people for our children not learning, even if you are not directly sitting down with them. Take advantage of some of these free resources, but at the end of the day, get your damn kids. They are your responsibility, or don't quit having them, period.
Get your kids. My final thought is this, just as a mother who has went through all the things, right, with my daughter, we have struggled through certain subjects. When I first had her, I was like, I want her to know how to read. I want her to know how to, in second grade, I was trying to prepare her for college, right? Or I'm sorry, and when she was 2 or 3, I was trying to prepare her for high school, I guess, in my mind, thinking like she has to, it was a burden that was in me. Like it was something that I wanted to make sure that she was prepared. In my mind, I was thinking just for kindergarten, but when we got to kindergarten, it was like, oh, she could read like a third grader. I was like, yes, but not knowing that, just trying to pour as much as I can in her. And to this day, I still want to pour as much now that we're out of school, I was like, you know what, Lauren, I want to read a couple books I want you to read a couple books this summer. I want you to read The Artist's Way, since she's about to go to a performing arts school. Just trying to like prepare her even for her artistry, understanding that like she wants to go to Broadway. We got to prepare you for Broadway. Let's read books. Let's watch videos. Let's look at how people used to train to get where they want to go. Right. It's just, you just have to really care, I would say, about your child. And Noma says something like, most people can't even stand their kids, but you got to look at them and see yourself. I see myself in her. I'm like, dang, when I was 14, I wish I would have had all of this, like in terms of just parents that were just watching, like, oh, Lauren can make a move. And I'd be like, ooh, is she interested in this? Ooh, she might be interested in that. You just got to be watching your children, seeing what their interests are and just finding free resources. Like Vanessa said, you can go to ChatGPT and it'll give you a list of things of whatever their interests are. Find free resources for them. And so I think that's so important. I love this conversation that we've had today, ladies. And Joe, thank you for coming. I know he had to go and counsel somebody. But I just think that this conversation is so important because we are so behind. I mean, mind blowing. 30 million adults are functionally literate, right? That opened my mind to know that like most of the people walking around, can't read and write, right? So you wondering why you sometimes you having issues with people they can't even read, right? Like that. I'm like, you having issues with people's other parents that just can't read and really don't have skills. Anyway, I'm thinking about sometimes when you're sending your kids, and you are sending your kids to school with these other kids like that have parents who can't read and have children who are just like,
Get your kids.
Get your kids. Okay.
Get your kids.
My name is Tiara Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. And I would just say if you are an adult that is struggling, maybe you are having issues. I don't have a reading program, but I do have the Fly New Bay Money Club. And we can help you get your skills together, skills that you may need to compete in this market. And maybe, just being in the environment with other overachieving Black people can rub off on you and make you an overachiever, make you, think about like going back to school or doing something great for you. So I encourage that. Go to flynewbaymoneyclub.com. Also, my birthday is this Saturday. June 7th all day long. I'm just telling people, like, listen, if you care about me and you watch the show and you consider us family, and would love to buy me, something like a gift.
Uh-oh. Not it being cut off. Wait a minute. T? Can't hear you.
The mic is off now. Okay, so
No,
I
she
guess
went.
it's up to us to close us out.
She
It's been a pleasure, and we will see everybody tomorrow.
see y'all later. Have a great show. And I think Tierra was saying it's her birthday Saturday. Y'all show her some love on Saturday. Y'all have a